This weekend, we celebrate the past year of Broadway at the 2025 Tony Awards. Last year, I went to watch the Tonys with friends, and while I was sitting there, half asleep at 3 AM, I felt a little bit sad. I felt really behind on the season, I'm living an ocean away, and there wasn't really the content on YouTube that truly helped me feel like I could catch up. And then, while I was making my Olivier Awards guide this year, a format that had originally been inspired by Musical Mash's Tony Awards guides, I kind of went, it's a shame he doesn't make those anymore. Wait, I can. So this year, I'm being the change I want to see in the world. This is your guide to the 2025 Tony Awards. We're going to run through every show nominated this year, talk frontrunners, and catch you up to speed just in time for the awards this Sunday. We're going to start with our musicals and then head into our plays. This is your 2025 Tony Awards guide.
There is a music studio in Odorana. Right now, you and I are 1,000 miles away. But a sound like this, it tends to travel.
Let's begin with what technically is our frontrunner at this year's awards. And that honour belongs to Buena Vista Social Club, a jukebox musical about 4 Cuban musicians who formed the group Buena Vista Social Club and released their album, called Buena Vista Social Club. I mean, if you got a name that good, you stick to it. This musical brings you into the heart of Cuba, to a place where blazing trumpets and sizzling guitars set the dance floor on fire. Here, the real sound of Havana is born, and one woman discovers the music that will change her life forever. This jukebox musical, with a score fully in Spanish, is lifted straight from the album of the same name, and gives this musical a beautifully authentic flair, while it tells decades worth of the story of these musicians. Buena Vista Social Club is up for 10 Tony Awards this year, joint first in nominations. However, because of the fact that they have been given a special Tony dedicated to their band, they technically take the lead this season. They are nominated for sound, choreography, orchestrations, costume, lighting, book, scenic design, direction, featured actress for Natalie Venetia Belcon, and of course, best musical. Will they take home the awards to Cuba? Let's wait and see. The big commercial hit of the season, Death Becomes Her, is one of the most fun movie to musical adaptations in a very long time. Following the similar events of the film, Death Becomes Her sees the feud between Madeline Ashton and Helen Sharp reach new heights when the pair drink a potion that makes them immortal. It has dialed the camp of that original film up to 11, and in doing so has actively charmed Broadway, creating a show that you would die for. When I say I am obsessed with this cast album, I mean it. It's one of my favourite musicals of the season, and that is a surprise knowing that before I introduced myself to this musical, I did not know this film at all. Death Becomes Her has set its gaze on 10 nominations, with it receiving nods for choreography, lighting, costume, scenic design, score, book, direction, both of its leading actresses Megan Hilty and Jennifer Simard, and finally, Best Musical. If my money's on anything, I think Death Becomes Her is very likely to come home with some wins, particularly for its creative team. Narrow me down to one, I would say I wouldn't be surprised if Paul Tazewell goes from winning the Oscar for his costumes in Wicked to winning another Tony Award for his work here. You can consider this gaze very happy with this musical.
Of 68. With 4 days of rain behind us, the yellow sand conditions have cleared. So, leave that mask at home.
Another one of the musicals I'm well and truly obsessed with this season may be Happy Ending. I have absolutely fallen in love with this musical, and I can't explain truly how glad I am to see it get the love it deserves at this award show. Maybe Happy Ending is a musical that started its life in Korea and has slowly built up a community on Broadway through word of mouth. This beautiful little musical takes us on a journey as discontinued helper bots Oliver and Claire venture beyond their little rooms and discover a connection growing between them. It's equally as adorable as it is heartbreaking. I'm absolutely gutted that I can't see this show live. And if you can't tell from all the gushing I have done so far, this is the musical that I'm rooting for this year. Maybe Happy Ending has helped itself to 10 nominations, being our joint third lead in musicals this year, with nominations for their score, book, scenic design, costumes, lighting, sound, direction, orchestrations, an acting nod for Darren Criss, and of course, Best Musical. Now, I'm not sure if it's just the bias and the love talking, but I feel like Maybe Happy Ending has a strong claim to many of those awards. It's the musical that I see as most likely to take the big award of the night, Best Musical. Its set is incredibly impressive, Chris's performance is spot on, and while I do enjoy a lot of the scores this season, I do think that this is one of the strongest from what I've heard. Basically, give it everything and let's hit the road.
Well, that's the way that it has to be.
I want to tell you the true story of the dead outlaw.
After an acclaimed off-Broadway run, Dead Outlaw has transferred to Broadway's Longacre Theatre. Based on a surprising true story, it follows a dead outlaw. No points for guessing that. One Mr. Elmer McCurdy, who was shot and killed while robbing a train at the age of 31. No family members claim his corpse, so instead it was preserved and travelled across the USA. Now, a musical about a travelling corpse. Where have I heard that one before? I'm sure it will come to me later. This Western has already won some strong awards for its off-Broadway run. Can these translate some Tony wins? We'll have to wait to find out. Nobody may know your name, but we do know that Dead Outlaw is up for 7 Tony Awards, with nods for its direction, book, score, 3 of its cast members, Andrew Durand in leading actor, Jeb Brown in featured actor, Julia Nightel for featured actress, and finally, Best Musical. What's really funny about covering this year's Tony Awards is that so much of it feels like last year's Olivier Awards because so many of our shows transferred in the past year. So yes, once again, facing Operation Mincemeat, Stranger Things, Picture of Dorian Gray, Hills of California in an award season is the Jamie Lloyd-directed Sunset Boulevard. Transferring to the St. James Theatre on Broadway, this revival strips the musical back, creating a fresh look onto the story of fading star Norma Desmond and her attempt to push herself back into the spotlight. This production is a divisive one, that's for sure, but it's undeniable the impressive technical feats that this show achieves. And I'll admit, I'm someone who really enjoyed this specific production. And the interesting ideas that it takes, I'll always appreciate a version of the show that takes big swings, even if not every single one hits. Sunset Boulevard is ready for its close-up on its 7 Tony nominations. Acting nods for Nicole Scherzinger and Tom Francis in leading actress and actor respectively, sound design, lighting design, direction, orchestrations, and of course rounding it out with Best Revival of a Musical, the lead in nominations in this category. While this show performed extremely well at the Olivier Awards, it has a lot more competition in this Tony season. I will say it has a good chance in a lot of its categories, such as Best Direction or even the bloodbath that is Best Actress. So I will be surprised if Sunset Boulevard walks away empty-handed on Sunday. Floyd Collins had an off-Broadway run all the way back in 1996, and while this only lasted for 25 performances, the reception was fairly positive. Almost 30 years later, it has finally made its Broadway debut, but because of the rules surrounding the Tony Awards and its history in the city, this version is being considered a revival, much like Gutenberg and Hedwig and the Angry Inch before it. This musical is based on the true story of Floyd Collins, a cave explorer who gets trapped underground. Here, he fights to keep his sanity and his life. With 6 nominations, Floyd Collins is our second most nominated musical revival this year. It's been nominated for sound, lighting, orchestration, and for actors Taylor Trench and Jeremy Jordan in featured and leading actor respectively. along with, of course, Best Revival of a Musical. But it's interesting to note that this could possibly be the year where Jeremy Jordan finally gets his Tony Award. He was last nominated at the Tonys all the way back in 2012 for Newsies, and I, for one, would love to see him finally get an award.
I'm Jonathan. I'll be your Bobby Darin tonight.
And speaking of iconic actors being back on the Great White Way, Jonathan Groff is back on Broadway in an immersive jukebox musical celebrating the life and work of American singer Bobby Darin. The Circle in the Square Theatre has been transformed into a nightclub, the perfect spot to hear some swing hits from Darin's back catalogue. Now, Just in Time may have missed out on a nomination in Best Musical, ain't that a shame, but this could still be the start of something big for this musical as it heads into the evening with 6 Tony nominations. Best Orchestrations, Best Sound Design, Best Scenic Design, Best Costume, Best Featured Actress for Gracie Lawrence, and, most excitingly, Leading Actor for Jonathan Groff. I say this because last year, Jonathan Groff won the Best Actor in a Musical award. Can he pull it off and win 2 Tonys back to back? It's Audra's turn to take on the iconic role of Mama Rose in the latest Broadway revival of Gypsy. This musical retelling of Gypsy Rose Lee's memoirs is presented through the eyes of her mother, Rose, a woman determined to make a better life for her kids, but mostly herself. While this production hasn't been for everyone, I'm glad to see this musical make a triumphant return to Broadway, especially in the newly renovated Majestic Theatre. Audra taking on the role of Mama Rose has been a long time coming, and the nomination here has cemented her as the most nominated actress in Tony Awards history, with 11 nominations and 6 wins. This year, will it become 7? Gypsy has been entertained with 5 nominations. The previously mentioned nod for Audra McDonald in Leading Actress, with fellow cast members Joy Woods and Danny Burstein in Featured Actress and Actor respectively. We round this up to 5, along with nods for choreography and a space in Best Revival of a Musical. The little show that could go to Broadway. The hype from London has led the secret mission to New York, as Operation Mincemeat has transferred to the Golden Theatre on the Great White Way. Operation Mincemeat is a UK-born musical that slowly worked its way from the fringe to the West End. It follows the true story of how a group of MI5 spies in World War II used a dead body and a fake ID to trick the Nazis. Oh, that's where I'd heard it before. Well, if I had a penny for every musical this season about transporting a corpse, I'd have 2 pennies. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that happened twice. While it was questionable how much Operation Mincemeat would appeal to an American audience, it's clear that the British charm has worked on Broadway. They may not be born to lead at the Tony Awards, but Operation Mincemeat has picked up a strong 4 nominations, with a good shot at winning an award or 2 on the night. With very well justified nods for its book, score, featured actor Jack Malone, and it is our final nominee in Best Musical. You know, it almost feels like my civic duty to support this show through the season, as I am doing with a lot of the other British musicals that have found their way to New York this year. I find it harder to believe it will claim the big award of the evening like it did over here, but I'm holding out hope for some wins for our little show. Boop boop be-doop. Betty Boop is a cultural icon, and now she finds herself imagined on a Broadway stage for the very first time. Boop the musical is pitching itself as the big family show of the season, and it has received some mixed reactions this year. Betty Boop longs for an ordinary day off of fame in her black and white world of Toontown. But instead, she finds herself teleported to the real world, full of colours and the bright lights of New York City. Boop is capable of amazing things, like being nominated for 3 Tony Awards. It underperformed when you compared that to something like the 11 Drama Desk nominations, but we shouldn't count Boop out just yet. The nods for choreography, costume, and leading actress Jasmine Amy Rogers feel legitimately earned, and I could very easily see a case being made for a win for Boop on the night. Real Women Have Curves is a show that, the more I learn about it, the sadder I am that it didn't make a bigger splash in this award season. Everything that they keep releasing from this show endears me more to it. This musical follows Anna Garcia, a girl with ambitions beyond her home in LA and her family's business. But when a make or break order arrives, Anna finds herself torn between her dream, her mother's expectations, and a community of women all trying to make it work against the odds. Real Women Have Curves has made it work with 2 nominations. It is our final musical nominated for its score, along with a nomination in Featured Actress. This being for Justina Machado's role as Anna's mother, Carmen. I'm not holding my breath for this musical on the evening, but you know what? From the few things I've seen of it, it's already won my heart, and that's good enough, I hope. The TV show Smash was the personality trait of many a theatre gave back when it aired in 2012. Now, over a decade later, a stage version of this TV show has arrived on Broadway with a slight twist. While the TV show was a bit more of a drama, this adaptation leans more into a musical comedy style, but both do follow the staging of a musical based on Marilyn Monroe called Bombshell. Smash is moving on with 2 Tony nominations, a nod for its choreography and another for its featured actor Brooke Ashmanskas and his take on the role of Nigel. While I do think it's unlikely that it walks away with a win on the night, Ashmanskas has a strong shot in that featured actor category.
To the theater!
To the theater!
We're now into our final 3 musicals, and we have 2 jukebox musicals in this bunch that are both a sad story. We start with A Wonderful World. It's difficult for me to find out loads and loads about this musical because of its early Broadway closure. The show only managed to get through 151 performances and 31 previews by the time it closed in February 2025. It's a shame that this jukebox musical about Louis Armstrong's life and legacy struggled to connect to Broadway audiences. However, it is a wonderful surprise to still see the show nominated this year, specifically for James Monroe Iglehart's take on the iconic man himself in Best Leading Actor. Hopefully, this little bit of love can lead into some future life for this musical.
Pirates! Hello! Formerly of Penzance, but for tonight, reconceived in and for the city of New Orleans!
The Gilbert and Sullivan classic has been given a new coat of paint, as Pirates, the Penzance musical, has docked on Broadway, playing at the Todd Haynes Theatre. Now, this production naturally caught my eye due to the casting of drag legend and trans icon Jinx Monsoon, and the man who absolutely never stopped being booked and blessed, Ramin Karimloo. This version of Pirates has adapted the book, moving the classic story to a New Orleans setting, and has reorchestrated the piece to add more variety into its musical styling. It's a revival, yes, but a massively changed one, which I guess reflects in the title of this musical too. Now, listen, this being a revival of Pirates of Penzance, it gives me the chance to do this, and I'm not letting go of this opportunity, so I do declare that Pirates isn't a complete and utter snub. It finds itself quite firmly in the musical revival club. Will it win? It's hard to say. It's not the one my money's on. So wait until the broadcast and you'll find out if it's really one, but still it matters vegetable, animal, and mineral. I am the very model of a modern major general.
save me. Ain't no man can enslave me.
We've made it to the other side, the final musical nominated this season, but unfortunately this is another sad tale of a musical that didn't last until the awards night. Swept Away uses the music of the Avett Brothers to tell the story that inspired their album Mignonette, the shipwreck that also inspired Life of Pi, and if you know where that story went, you can imagine just how dark this story is without the animals. This did lead it to be a little bit of a hard sell on Broadway. But nonetheless, I am glad that we do have a cast album for this show to still be able to celebrate its run, even if it was shorter than initially planned. And we also have a nomination here. A nomination that makes a lot of sense, as it's been nominated for Best Scenic Design. With our musicals done, we now head into both our new and our revived plays. Starting with our most nominated play this year.
The Sea View Luxury Guest House and Spa, just around the corner from this cinema. Turn left.
I promised Mum. I promised her Joan would be here.
It was slightly disappointing to see The Hills of California not do as well as it could have done at the Olivier Awards in 2024. While it wasn't snubbed completely, it did feel like it deserved a little bit better. Well, turns out they just needed to wait for Broadway. The Hills of California is our joint lead in nominations for plays this year in a fiercely competitive season. This story is set in Blackpool, England, and surrounds a set of siblings reuniting to visit their mother on her deathbed. As the three wait for the arrival of their famous fourth sister who is growing distant from them, they think back on their childhoods together and where it went wrong. Jez Butterworth's play is one of the most engaging pieces of drama I've had the pleasure of watching, and the new ending for Broadway has only tightened this more. I'm so glad to see this play get the flowers it deserves, and I hope they walk away on the night with at least a win under their belt. Hills of California is up for 7 Tony Awards. Just like at the Oliviers, Laura Donnelly has been nominated for Best Actress, and of course they've been nominated for Best Play. But for this season, they also have been recognised for their direction, scenic design, costume, lighting, and sound. Now, this is the first play of this season that I haven't seen, and it's much harder to engage with plays over here than it is with the musicals. But what I will say about John Proctor as the villain is I have not heard people stop talking about it. This piece has managed to connect to its audience so incredibly well, and has even branched out to connect to young audiences in a similar way to how we saw Romeo plus Juliet do earlier in the season. And yes, I will call Romeo and Juliet Romeo plus Juliet, that's how they spelt it. The title of this play may be familiar to you if you have seen or read the iconic witch trial-based play The Crucible. John Proctor as the villain explores a cast room of young female students exploring and engaging with this text and questioning it from their own perspectives. This is yet another piece from this season I really hope makes the journey across the pond, especially in the era we are right now, where this type of story is so vitally important. And even more important for young women. John Proctor as the villain is up for 7 awards: Best Sound, Lighting, Direction, Acting nods for Gabriel Ebert and Fina Straza in Featured Actor and Actress respectively, and Sadie Sink in Leading Actress. Finally, their nominations are rounded out to a solid 7, with a slot in Best Play.
If only I could remain always young, and the picture could grow old.
It was a few weeks after the Olivier Awards when I got to experience The Picture of Dorian Gray for the first time, and I was furious that I couldn't share my perspective on this piece in that recap, but thankfully, I get to do that now. The Picture of Dorian Gray is a unique piece of theatre that blends pre-filmed and live performance from Sarah Schnook to tell the entire Oscar Wilde story with just one actress. The classic story of a man cursed with eternal youth while a picture in his attic grows more and more grotesque feels so freshly handled in this very impressive production. It was only nominated for 2 Olivier Awards, but managed to win both of them. It is yet to be seen, however, if Dorian Gray will have a similar success rate at the Tony Awards. Dorian Gray is our most nominated play to miss out on a nomination in Best Play. Yes, strangely, this is not considered a revival. Despite the snub there, it's up for 6 Tony Awards, triple the amount it was nominated for and won at the Olivier's. Best Actress for Sarah Schnook, Best Direction, Best Scenic Design, Best Costume, Best Lighting, and Best Sound.
I would give my soul for that.
After their win at the Drama Desk Awards and their Pulitzer Prize, we definitely need to keep an eye on Purpose. This play explores the Jasper family. Like all families, there are cracks beneath the surface. When the son returns with an uninvited friend, the family is forced into a reckoning with itself, its faith, and its legacy. Bar its nod in Best Play, Purpose's 6 Tony nominations all come from acting categories, with at least 1 nomination each. John Michael Hill and Harry Lennox in Leading Actor, Latanya Richardson-Jackson in Best Actress, Glenn Davis for Featured Actor, and finally, Cara Young for Best Featured Actress. This nomination makes Cara the first black actress to be nominated 4 years in a row at the Tony Awards. As season 5 looms closer and closer, the prequel to Stranger Things has arrived on Broadway. Acting as a companion piece to season 4, Stranger Things The First Shadow expands on the backstory of Henry Creel, his connection to the Upside Down, and how he became one. I'm a huge Stranger Things fan, but I'll admit I was personally let down by this show. What it does in 3 hours feels like it doesn't really add enough substantially to what the TV show explored in 3 minutes. It can't really allow characters that we know and love like Joyce, Bob, and Hopper to do anything really interesting or truly experience the horrors, so they're kind of relegated to a weak B-plot, despite them being the most recognizable characters in the show. Admittedly though, I've heard a lot about the changes they've made on Broadway, and these do sound like they have the potential to really tighten the show, and are pushing it into the correct direction. I do hope that these can make their way across the pond so I can see how it's changed for myself, but nonetheless, Stranger Things has ventured into the Upside Down and has returned with 5 very well-deserved nominations. These being for their scenic design, costume, lighting, and sound, along with an acting nomination for their one performer to cross the pond, Lewis McCartney. Alongside these nominations, the production has actually been awarded a special Tony Award for their illusions and technical effects, so even if it doesn't fare well in a night, it already has 1 Tony Award in the bag.
Has anyone taken the test before?
I have taken the TOEFL 5 times.
5 times?
5, yes, your ear is right.
I told you this was a strong season for plays, and we have another Pulitzer Prize winner. This is English, a play that explores 4 Iranian adults preparing to take the test of English as a foreign language to be able to study abroad. This piece premiered off-Broadway in 2022 and has made a trip around the States and made its way back to NYC, to Broadway's Todd Haynes Theatre. With a lot of the rhetoric coming out of the current American administration, the themes of culture, language, and identity feel so much more poignant than ever in this play. English has been nominated for 5 awards this year, these being for its direction, scenic design, 2 of its featured actresses, Tala Ash and Marja Neshat, and finally, Best Play.
One day, you will be far away from here. I wonder who I will speak with then.
George Clooney has made his Broadway debut this year in Good Night and Good Luck, a new play at the Winter Garden Theatre. This piece is based on Clooney's 2005 film the same name, and has been co-written by him and Grant Heslov as a response to Donald Trump's administration, as a way to discuss the era when, and I quote, "the press held their government to account." This historical piece explores a clash between Edward R. Murrow, a journalist for CBS, and Republican Senator Joseph McCartney, who intended to use a subcommittee to blacklist people suspected of being a communist. Good Night and Good Luck is up for 5 Tony Awards. It narrowly missed Best Play, but still has been recognised for its scenic design, costume, lighting, sound, and Clooney's leading take as Murrow.
How would it look for the First Lady of the United States to be flitting about the stage right now in the ruins of war?
How would it look? Sensational!
Now, I'm sure I'm not alone in this, but I am obsessed now with Corliss Caller. Their mind is a mystery, but what we know is up there is comedic genius, as Old Mary has quickly become a Broadway favourite. This comedy spoof, written and starring as Caller, explores the days leading up to the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, but telling them from the perspective of his wife, Mary. It explores her ambitions and her loneliness when Lincoln leaves her in the White House alone. Something I want to highlight about the show is how clever it's been with its casting. Every single actor who takes up the role of Mary is so different to the last. And if you saw my video where I spoke about Hadestown casting, you know I love that type of casting. It allows the show to keep reinventing itself, and I hope that that allows it to have a very successful run on Broadway. 4 score, and that would have been a perfect lead into a nomination count if O'Mary was up for one less award. O'Mary has been nominated for Costume, Direction, Corliss Caller in Leading Actor, and Conrad Ricamora in Featured Actor, and finally, Best Play, totaling 5 nominations as a whole.
Tony Award-winning playwright David Henry Hwang.
Somewhere out there, our star is waiting for us to find him.
We are looking to cast this role with an Asian.
As you should.
Does he look Asian to you?
After that wall of new plays, we finally get to our play revivals, where we have 2 to talk about that have been nominated for more than 1 award. The first of these, Yellowface. A semi-autobiographical play written by David Henry Hwang, and features him and his experience when putting on his 1993 play Face Value. This play explores a lot of his frustration at the time of white actors playing Asian roles in Yellowface. Yellowface's Broadway revival is up for 3 Tony Awards. Acting nod for Daniel Day Kim's take on David in Leading Actor, and Francis Dew as his father in Featured Actor. And as previously mentioned, it rounds out its nominations with 1 in Best Revival of a Play.
I'm willing to go out there and lose my face. How about you?
And our final play with multiple nominations, we have Eureka Day. This play revival explores a school in California as multiple meetings take place between administrators and parents. There is an outbreak of mumps across the school, and this brings forth the topic of vaccination. Once again, to bring it back to the American government right now, this piece sadly still feels very topical. It is up for 2 Tony Awards, a nomination for Best Featured Actress for Jessica Hecht, and Best Revival of a Play. We now come to our final plays. Each of these are up for 1 award each, so let's run through them quickly. Our only new play here is The Roommate, a casualty in a season that was just full of fantastically well-received plays, but thankfully The Roommate did manage to sneak in a nomination for Mia Farrow. With that, the rest of our nominees are all in the Best Revival category. We have the starry Cass Glengarry Glen Ross revival about unethical Chicago real estate agents. We have the Jim Parsons-led revival of the famous American play Our Town. And finally, Romeo plus Juliet, the Shakespeare revival that brought a Gen Z edge, but I guess it's on Broadway, so it would be a Gen Z edge, to the piece starring Kit Connor and Rachel Zegler. And that is every show nominated at this year's Tony Awards. It's so nice to once again be in touch with a Broadway season, even if I have to do it from very far away. Who are you rooting for this year? Who did you wish to see nominated in certain categories? Let me know all your thoughts on this Tony season in the comments down below. If you did enjoy this video, please consider hitting like and subscribe. It really helps me, it helps the channel. Here's some links to some other videos on screen right now, and a link to my Instagram if you'd like to drop me a follow over there. I also have other social links and a merch store in the description down below. But that's it for me today, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!